And welcome. I'm the Maven, and I'm here today with a great show. It's a brand new series, and I will be reviewing and recapping the Scarpetta television series. I am a longtime fan of Patricia Cornwell. Follow her on X. If you don't, and you are on X or formerly known as Twitter, make sure you look her up and follow her there as well, to always get the latest news on what she's doing, and also interviews if you want to know some behind the scenes, more about her personal life, more about how she came up with Scarpetta, how this television series came to be. All that information is there. So I want to tell you a little bit about Patricia Cornwell, who is the author of the Scarpetta series of books, which the television series is based on. So she first came out with the book Postmortem in 1990. And critical acclaim, she won lots of awards, and she continued the Scarpetta series all the way up until the late, the 29th book in the series, Sharp Force. And so I have been a fan for a very, very long time, since the 90s. And I've got an extensive book collection of hardcovers and paperbacks and audiobooks. And she does a lot more than just Scarpetta. There's the Andy Brazil series. There are memoirs, in particular, one of Ruth Graham. And she also has a book coming out of her own memoirs, I don't know, later this year or in 2027. I think it's finished writing, but it takes time to go through the publishing process. So that's on the way. There's a cookbook, all based on the Scarpetta series, things that she talks about in the books that Scarpetta cooks and makes and eats. And you get those recipes in the cookbook of Patricia Cornwell to go on. But we're here to talk about the television series, and it's been a long time coming. I don't know how many of you realize that the CSI series was actually kind of based on her books, but without copyright and without permission. So they kind of like twisted up the characters and things like this, but having the concept of a forensic series rather than just a procedural, which would be was groundbreaking. And at the time, I remember news that she was actually thinking about suing them, but she decided not to. And so we've still been waiting for a real Scarpetta series, and it's here. It's available only on Prime Video. So I bet you there's lots of people that signed up just so that they could watch this series. Luckily, I already had access to it. So, and something that was absolutely surprising to me, because I do watch Netflix and things, and I'm an Outlander fan, and you get one episode, and then you got to wait a week, and then you get another episode, then you got to wait a long time for the next season. They put up all 8 episodes in season 1 all at once. They're all available. I've gone through 7 of them. I've got 1 left. But tonight we're just going to be talking about season 1, episode 1. And I apologize. I'm not seeing your chats. Let me see. Frugal's in the house. Mumsy's in the house. Chalet's in the house. The thumbnail threw you off. Yes. I was like, where's the Maven? Even the background I changed for this, because this is a standalone series about Scarpetta. So season 1, episode 1, the title of this episode is Bridge of Time, Part 1. And in the opening sequence, it grabs you right away with a penny. You see a close-up of a penny on a train track rail, right? And you can hear the train coming. You see the lights, and then as it goes back and the train is crossing in front, there's a body on the other side, and then you see Scarpetta. So I thought the opening sequence was well done and attention grabbing. And then we jump right into seeing Scarpetta wake up, Dr. Scarpetta. I'm just going to call her Scarpetta, but officially she's Dr. Scarpetta. If you don't know, she's a medical examiner. And in her early days, she was with Virginia. Okay, she's been a medical examiner in Richmond, and then also in Boston, and she was in Virginia. She had stepped away. Now she's come back. Okay, which is very clear throughout this episode. It reveals this background. Of course, if you've read all the books, you know a lot of the relationships between the characters, because it's not just a mystery that's solving a crime and using forensic techniques to do that. There's a lot of character development between the main characters through the entire series, which is one of the things that just makes it fantastic. So we see Scarpetta wake up, and the bed next to her is empty with a note. So Benton Wesley is her husband. He has not been revealed yet, and he's not there. She wakes up alone, and you kind of get this sense that maybe there's some distance in their relationship. You know, is this normal or not? For a brand new viewer, you sense maybe something's off, right? Then she goes through her morning routine, you know, brushing her teeth, taking a vitamin, all the morning bathroom routine, which I felt it gives you a sense of mundane. You know, this is just the mundane. You wake up. I mean, she got a phone call while she was in bed with the police officer saying, you know, she has to go somewhere. But she doesn't just jump out of bed and throw on her jacket and rush to the scene. The body's not going anywhere, right? So she still takes time for herself. So that I thought was a very poignant moment right there at the beginning that tells us a lot about who Scarpetta is. She makes a cup of coffee, and then she goes out and she goes to the scene. It almost has a sense of calm before a storm, you know. However, when she's in the car, I was very surprised to see her smoking, because while she did smoke earlier in her career, later she doesn't smoke anymore. She had quit smoking. So to see her smoking, I personally was surprised. Okay, if you don't know the character, that probably doesn't mean anything to you, right? And so very, very early on in this episode, you start to see the dynamics between the different characters, right? So far, we've only seen Scarpetta waking up and going to the scene. Now we're at the scene, and it's so much more about the relationships and setting up who these players are and what their role is. And I don't just mean an acting role. I mean the character, who they are and what their purpose is within the story, right? That kind of role. We see those dynamics. So I already mentioned that just by the absence of Benton, we get Scarpetta and her husband, you know, maybe there's something off there. Scarpetta and the police. So every time the police on the scene make an observation, oh, you know, I think this happened, or oh, this or that, or do you think this happened? And she responds with respect. She doesn't put them down or anything, but she adds so much more depth in what she sees and what she, just from arriving, and she hasn't really examined anything yet. But what she can see from her experience of so many crime scenes that she's been to shows so much depth that she has for her field and for her job. because she like he said, oh, was she sexually assaulted? You know, and she replies with something so much more profound, and not answering it directly, but acknowledging them, but giving more. Fruge, I think they pronounce it Fruge, is a young police officer, a female, and right as Scarpetta gets out of the car and starts walking toward where the body is, Fruge comes up from behind her and is, oh, good to see you, blah, 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 you know, and she's like, and you immediately get, you know, everybody's serious and everything, but not Fruge. La-di-da-di-da, you know, she's like excited, she's bubbly. You can tell she's a different personality, right? And then with Marino, so Marino shows up at the scene. She's already at the body, and one of the other police officers is kind of like this, we have a problem. Marino's here. And she goes away from the body up because they're not letting him into the crime scene. And so she goes up to him because he's retired now. Okay. So she goes up to him, and swear to God, I felt their first words together was like Casablanca. You know, Ilsa comes into the bar, you know, plays the music, you know, asks Sam to play the piano. And then Rick like sees, you know, hears the music, sees her, and you know instantly that they have a background. You don't know what it is, but you know instantly that there's a background. It was like that kind of moment between Scarpetta and Marino, where there was instantly a background. You know it, and that it's deep. And she tells him he can't, you know, he's got to go away, which is going to change later. But for now, you see that she has that authority in the relationship as well. As the ME, she not only takes care of the body, which is normal standard, is the medical examiner is concerned with the body, okay, preserving the evidence there of the body, right, and making sure that nothing gets compromised. But Scarpetta goes beyond that. She goes around the crime scene to really examine the whole area, and she's the one who finds that penny that we saw in the very beginning, which now has been flattened because the train has run over it, right? And so she, you know, takes that for evidence and takes pictures of it. Yo, traveling fools. Welcome. And when she finds the penny, she gets this look, and you know that it's taking her somewhere in the past. We don't know why that penny, what it connects to, but you know she's making a connection in her head. You can see it. And then it goes to her past. So let me actually take a moment. I did not mention who the actors are. So you can get in your head what they look like. So the whole show concept was created by, so the credit is created by Elizabeth Sarnoff. So kudos to her. And then this film would not have been done without, or not TV series, without Jamie Lee Curtis stepping up as producer. And you can see interviews with her talking about how when they were bringing Nicole Kidman on, and she hadn't signed on yet, and Nicole Kidman said to Jamie Lee Curtis, well, you're in it, right? You know, it's like, yes, I want to be in this because you're in it. And Jamie Lee Curtis was not planning on being in it. And she's like, yes, of course I'm in it, you know, and it moved forward. So Jamie Lee Curtis was the producer, but she also took on the role of Dorothy, who is Scarpetta's sister. And the younger, so when we go back to the past, the younger Dorothy is Amanda Rigetti. Scarpetta's past is Rosie McEwen. Benton is played by Simon Baker, and his past is by Hunter Parrish. Now, one thing that's interesting is, I guess he's always kind of had a bit of a Southern accent, but when I read the books, I don't really hear the Southern accent. So seeing it come to life with that accent was, it's perfect. It doesn't put me off at all, but it was different for me. So if I'm going to review my reactions, that was something that caught my attention. It's well done though. Marino is played by Bobby Cannavale, and the past Marino is Jake Cavanell. And I did not have time to check and see, are they brothers? Is it father-son? There's got to be some relationship there, right? And then Lucy is played by Anana DeBose. I'm not sure who plays the younger Lucy. And Matt Peterson is by Graham Phillips. He's not one of the main characters as far as in this family, but he is a prime suspect. Okay, so back to episode 1. So she was at the train tracks at this body. It's her first day coming back to this job as medical examiner for Virginia. Okay, chief medical examiner. And so as we go to the past, there's actually some really nice music of House of the Rising Sun, because it's very kind of haunting the way it plays. And oh wait, we don't actually go to the past yet. I apologize. She is still in they go to, they arrive. They look at the house details. No. Yeah, it goes in the past. I didn't make that note clear. Sorry about that. So now young Scarpetta and young Scarpetta arrives at the house of a murder. So it's not at the train tracks. It's in a house of a victim. Okay. And I notice she's very strict with there's an officer at the door, and he's like, this is the first time I've ever, worked a case of a grisly murder and all of this. And she's kind of, because she's like, oh, where's the gloves and the PPE, but she's strict and firm about it, but yet she also shows compassion to him. So you see these two sides of her. And again, as she's walking into this house, she doesn't just go straight to the body. That's her only concern. She's looking at everything in this house. There's a violin on the wall. There's a magazine on a table. She's taking everything in because she knows that it's going to all be part of this crime, and solving this homicide case. When they talk to the husband, Matt Peterson, he says he notices a smell. Now, first of all, I was so excited that he walked in the door. He's an actor. He got finished with rehearsals or the play or whatever. He comes in at 2:00 in the morning, and immediately he senses something's off. And as he walks closer to the bedroom, the smell hits him. And I'm like, so many times in true crime cases, a witness doesn't mention the smell. Okay. And it's like, okay, there was a smell. So why aren't they talking about the smell? And he talks about the smell, but it's not just the blood. Okay. He smells maple, like maple syrup. Okay, he smells something maple, a little bit maple and sour, he says. And so that's going to become a major clue. Just like with cyanide poisoning, the breath, well, not breath, but, you know, around the mouth, you can smell almonds, you know, and I'm like going, ooh, maple, what's maple? You know, I had to wait to find out. But so, yeah, that's a clue. So Marino and Scarpetta at this point are very much working together as a team, right? So that tension that we saw in the present day when she sends him home, that doesn't, I mean, they're working together. They're a team. They're on the same wavelength. They're working really good. Now, there is Abby Turnbull, who's a journalist. As they're leaving, she confronts, she's very confrontational. And we see, well, Scarpetta is the one that's confrontational. Abby Turnbull's just doing her job and asking question, tries to get a question in there. And it's not like just no comment or ignore her. No, she uses foul language to her and is very confrontational. So it's like, oh, well, there's another side of Scarpetta. She doesn't take anything from anybody. Okay. Mumsy says she really likes her books. I know Mumsy, I think, is the one who first gave me a book back in the 90s, and I was hooked. Let's see. Then we jump to her, to Scarpetta being sworn in. Because remember, this is like she went to the crime scene. She wasn't even sworn in for the job yet, because this was her first day on the job, and it was the middle of the night of that day. So she goes to I don't know if it's the governor's office or whatever. It doesn't actually say the position of the person swearing her in. And we see that person from behind. We see Nicole Kidman as Dr. Scarpetta. We see her face as she's repeating the swearing in oath. And then we get to see, this is the moment of Patricia Cornwell's cameo. Okay, she is the governor or whatever position that this is swearing her in. So it's nice to see her get to have a little role in the series. So now she's sworn in, and back in her office, or it's in the hallway on the way to the office, whatever, the swearing in is done, and immediately somebody named Dr. Riley shows up, and beside him, and he's older, okay, and an older woman named Maggie is with him, and you can immediately sense there's something going on here, okay, because Dr. Scarpetta is polite but standoffish, and they are just too bubbly, too smug, too happy, and so he introduces himself as the new Office of Health and Human Services, or Health Services. So the ME's office is kind of under this department, and now he's the department head. And she's like, oh, I thought you were retiring and, going to go fish on a lake, Oh no, blah, blah, blah. I brought you a gift. And it's Maggie. And she is not happy with that. And somehow someone says eyes and ears. Yeah, Maggie is the eyes and ears. It's just hinted at, but even if you hadn't read the books, Maggie seems like she's going to be a bit of a spy for this guy. And that's why he wants her there. Wants her to be the secretary for Dr. Scarpetta. Yeah. And we definitely, if you are a fan of Patricia Cornwell and you have read the books, that that's exactly what she is, and that they are nothing but trouble. And so it doesn't come out right and say any of that, but you can sense it. You know, if you're new and you've never read the books, you can sense that something's going on here. So next is the autopsy. And I thought it was very interesting that the body is what we say in situ, like in the situation, right? Because there has been rigor mortis, and so she's not laid out flat. She is still in the position that she was at the train tracks. I even noticed that as they were loading, the victim was in a body bag being loaded into a van, and you could see the shape of the body was not flat. It was in this kind of not quite a fetal position, but similar to she was actually hog-tied. Her hands were tied behind her, and then her feet were tied, and her hands and feet were tied together, like in the back. So, and which was around, well, there was a rope around her neck, which was tied to her feet. So if her feet tried to straighten out, it would cut off her air. And her hands were also tied behind her back. But the feet and the neck were tied together. And so she's still in that position, which I thought was very accurate. Okay, kudos to that for whoever did that. And this part then becomes amazing from a directing standpoint, that on two sides of the screen at the same time, we call this juxtaposition. You have present day Scarpetta autopsying, and the past one autopsying the previous victim, and they are absolutely parallel. So it's like Scarpetta's done this before. You know, it's the same MO with the victim. Okay. So that so now we know kind of like what she was remembering, right? That that maybe somehow these cases are connected, and we will find out later that they had arrested someone, and maybe they got the wrong guy, right? So this is what she's wondering, but we don't actually know that yet. Oh, and before I leave Dr. Riley and Maggie, I remember I said they were like super happy and, you know, something's off. There's like looks between the two of them that it's not just that they're happy. It's like there's a connection between them. You can sense that. Okay, so then we go to the past, I guess, and questions Marino's police work. Yeah, okay. So in the past, Scarpetta is questioning Marino's police work, okay? She's really kind of hard on him. While she's doing the autopsy, he's playing the interview with the husband, Matt Peterson. And she's like, well, why did you ask him that? Or whatever, you know, she's questioning how he did his police work. A brief scene of him actually doing the interview, but it's more about this relationship. And again, there's a lot of language, you know, that he's not politically correct. Okay. You can say that Marino is not politically correct. And she's chastising him about that. You know, it's like, don't talk like that don't use words like that in my office, in my autopsy room. And then in the present, I noticed that the older Scarpetta is much calmer. See, this was like her first job. I mean, in the past, this was like her first case, you know, when she had just started the job. And so she doesn't have as much experience under her belt. And so she's a little bit more high strung, where now she's in the present. She's much calmer as she's doing the autopsy, as she's speaking into the recorder to record her findings as she's doing the autopsy. And then she jumps into the shower. And this is a very interesting scene because she's in the shower. This is something that's very explained a lot in the books, how she needs to get this, you know, she's very almost OCD about showering and cleansing after autopsies. Okay. That doesn't really come through in here. She's just in the shower. But you can tell it's necessary to shower, to cleanse from the death that you've just been around. And Maggie comes in, and this is in this shower. It has like a little wall, but the door is just an opening. There's no actual door on it. It's a way you walk through, almost, you know, in high school gyms and junior high gyms back in the day when you had to take a shower, and you know, it's like there's no privacy. So there's semi-privacy. And but Maggie comes in and very inappropriately starts making comments about, wow, you know, your body's in great shape. You know, I think the normal protocol is you kind of keep your eyes averted and you don't really look, and you certainly don't comment about someone while they're physically taking a shower in an office setting, right? In a professional business setting. You know, I mean, she was so inappropriate. And also it's kind of like she's getting into Scarpetta's business, right? She has nothing holding her back. You know, she's just going to go right in wherever she wants to go, literally and figuratively. So she says, she's got a message from somebody about something, right? And Scarpetta asks her, is it about this case? And she completely ignores. She has to ask like 3 or 4 times before Maggie finally says yes. Okay. Almost as if it's an imposition to answer a question from Scarpetta, you know, but she completely deflected whenever Scarpetta was asking the question, deflected and just talked about something different. And then as she's leaving, makes another comment about her body, you know, how her body's wonderful, but it's a compliment, right? Yeah, but inappropriate. Okay, next page. So the next scene is Lucy at Janet's grave. So we don't know who Janet is. We don't even know who Lucy is at this point, but we see Lucy at Janet's grave. It was born 1986, died 2024. We will come to find out that Janet is Lucy's wife. Okay, so we've got some diversity in here, and she's darker skinned. I don't know that she's Black with a capital B, or if she's Hispanic. I'm not sure. It's irrelevant to me, but just there's a lot of diversity in the cast that we see, whether it's police officers, people working at the morgue, you know, all around. And I, while I'm not usually a great politically correct kind of person, and I think a lot of times this whole like diversity hiring and things like this, whatever, can go too far. I think in this case, everything works. Everything feels exactly the way it should be. So it's not the Lucy that I imagine. I mean, visually, it's not the Lucy that I imagined as I was reading the book, but I'm sure everybody has their own images that they make as they're reading a book. and you're not going to choose one person that's going to meet everybody's prior prior expectations. That would be an oxymoron, right? I mean, expectation is something for the future. Prior is something already happened. But what your prior imaginations, okay? It's not going to fit everybody's. But let's see, who plays Lucy? Anana DeBose. Excellent. I'm able to get right into the Lucy character, no problem at all. So while she's sitting at the grave, in the background, which the camera then moves to, is Dorothy and Scarpetta having a huge fight. Now, I think this is the first time that we've seen Dorothy, the sister. And you can so this reveals a lot about the dynamic between the sisters. A lot comes out as they're speaking, and they're pretty much fighting over Lucy and her grief, because it's been more than a year, almost 2 years, since Janet died, and they're sending jabs that reveal things about each other's character. One of the things is that Scarpetta had been impacted greatly by her father's death. Now, in future episodes, we're going to see more about what happened and how he died. But right now, we only know that we can see that there's an impact there for Scarpetta about her father's death. We can see that Dorothy is an extrovert while Scarpetta is more an introvert. We can also see some of the narcissism of Dorothy. And then while Lucy finally shouts at them to stop fighting, and so they tone it down, and that's the end of the scene. So then we get to go back to the past. And by the way, this jumping around feels seamless. It doesn't feel like, oh, now we're in the future. Present. Oh, now we're in the past. Now we're in the present. Now we're in the past. It doesn't feel like it's jumping around. The transitions are well done, and they fit the story perfectly. So now we're in the past. And this is when Scarpetta is going to meet Benton for the first time. And it's kind of almost hard to imagine. I mean, Postmortem was written in 1990, right? I came a little bit later than that, but in the 90s. But if you go from somebody that's actually been reading the book since they first came out, 1990, 90, 2000, 2010, 2020, and then 6, so 46 years, you know, Scarpetta and Benton are a thing, and their relationship has evolved through ups and downs. Okay. But to go back to that moment when they first meet, it was actually kind of exciting, and not only exciting for us watching, but very exciting for Scarpetta herself. She's very awkward. I mean, you can. She handles herself around the police. She handles herself around, dead bodies or whatever. We've seen this around the journalist. This very tough side, the language coming out every now and then, criticizing people and putting them in their place, while showing some compassion as well, but very kind of uptight. Okay. And now she's like an awkward schoolgirl with a crush. It's very obvious, the difference, and so they're in a hallway at the ME's office. He's very professional. in introducing himself and everything in this introduction. She walks away to go, because she's still in her scrubs. So she's got to change to have this meeting with Benton and Marino. So he says, okay, well, you go change, and I'm going to go meet up with Marino, and I'll see you in a few minutes. And she walks away, he walks away, and then she turns around and looks back at him, keeps walking, and then he turns around and looks at her. So, it's subtle, it's very subtle, but it's there. If you don't blink, you don't miss it. Okay? If you blink, you'll miss it. But so we know there's some chemistry between Benton and Scarpetta. So now she comes into the office where Benton and Marino are going over the case. They've got the murder board up. And what's very interesting is that Benton and Scarpetta go head to head with each other on the psychological he's a profile. He's there as the FBI profiler. Marino is a detective. Okay, so he's not a beat cop, but he's a detective for the police department. And then Scarpetta is the medical examiner. So the three of them are working on this, and Benton and Scarpetta, boom, 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 boom. They're going back and forth with each other. Okay, on this intellectual level, understand. I mean, almost like a married couple that finishes each other's sentences. The one says one thing, the other says something complements that, and then builds on that, and and then you get this shot where it's focused. It's a two shot. You've got the two of them there, but little bit in the back, sitting on a couch. In the background is Marino, and that struck me as some very good cinematography and directing on how Marino just became the outsider to Benton. Benton and Scarpetta have something going on, and he's not part of it. He doesn't say, like, guys, go get a room, but it almost feels like Marino's the type of person that would say something like that. And it's almost like, hey, what about me? I'm here. Hello. You get that feeling from whatever Marino says. You kind of get that feeling from him. Like it didn't go unnoticed by him that this dynamic was developing between Scarpetta and Benton. Okay. Because remember how well I said that in the past, which is where we're at right now, when they were together on the scene, they were like this. They were a team. They were working together. Now there's someone else, someone new that she's getting along with. Right? It doesn't hit Marino too well. There's very much a sexual tension that you can sense that. And Marino, of course, is very, the word that came to mind is uncouth. I can't think of a better word than uncouth is Marino. And he wants to go after the husband. Okay. His gut is the husband did it. And Scarpetta is kind of blowing him off. It's like, well, this is the fourth in a serial killer. There's 3 other victims. I think she's fourth. She might be third. Okay, I didn't write that down. But if the husband did it, like the reasoning that Marino has that the husband would have done it, well, then how does that explain the previous victims, right? What's the connection that he would have to the previous the previous victims? So Marino leaves the room, and then she asks Benton something, it's like, what are we going to do with Marino kind of thing. And he goes, Benton says, no, I'm worried about him too. because I think she asked, like, so what's your take on the husband? What do you think? And he goes, I'm worried about him. He gives me worries, whatever. So he kind of backs up Marino a little bit. He's not afraid to speak his mind on that, right? So let's see. Next, Scarpetta gets home, and this is this is in the past. So I think all of this is in the past. So she gets home, and Lucy. Now we see young Lucy, and young Lucy is sitting on an old computer, right? And one of the things I noticed, good job to the sound editing department. When she's typing, the sound of the clacking of the keys sounds like an old computer. And I didn't really realize how quiet keyboard keys are today. The keyboards have evolved, and they're not as noisy as they used to be. And she's clocking away on that computer. So like I said, kudos to the sound design department. There's definitely tension, okay, between Scarpetta and Lucy. I mean, you can tell Scarpetta cares about Lucy, but she gets a little mad at her because Lucy ends up saying that, like, oh, because she's like, well, what are you doing? What are you working on? Oh, well, you hadn't done any maintenance. She doesn't use the word defrag, but that's what kind of comes to my mind. It's been a year since you did like maintenance on your computer, so I took care of it for you. And Scarpetta's like, oh my God, because she's got all her work, right? And she's like, you didn't do something like that time you did something to your mother's computer, and I think she reformatted the computer, and she lost the book that she was working on. So now we know that her mother is Dorothy, right? Scarpetta's sister, Lucy's mother, is a writer. And she lost the book that she was writing on. You didn't do something like that, did you? And she's like, no, I backed up everything. I backed up everything on discs. And then you see these floppy discs, and she's like, Scarpetta is angry. And she's losing her cool. But as she's looking at the discs, she notices a newspaper. And she just stops dead still. And then it's like the light switch, it just completely switches from this tension and this anger to a very, very tender moment between Lucy and Scarpetta, because the newspaper article, of course, is by Abby Turnbull about these murders, the serial killers struck again. Are women safe in their homes and all of this, and Lucy's afraid of losing Scarpetta. I think this is where she mentioned she lost her father. I don't know how she lost her father, but she lost her father. Her mother's absent. Her mother's always going out with marrying lots of different guys, always dating different guys. That's why she's staying with Scarpetta, because her mother's kind of flighty in that way, and writing her books and doing her book tours and whatever she does. Okay. And so then you see this really, really tender moment. And that relationship is solid. Even we all get into fights sometimes and everything, but underneath it all, they're really solid together. And there's a lot of love there. Okay. Yeah, Lucy reveals she's scared. The tension turns into a tender moment. Her dad died. She's dealing, they talk about grief, dealing with grief. Oh, dealing with grief is a major theme throughout I can tell you throughout all the episodes, through the Scarpetta series, everybody is dealing with grief of something. Okay? So dealing with grief is a huge theme throughout. Also, it kind of it kind of revealed that the relationship is somewhat volatile between Lucy and Scarpetta, which will come out to play later as well. You know, this not love hate, but it's volatile. That's the word. Okay. Then we get the present time, which is a present. It's a gift. Scarpetta gets home and walks into the kitchen, and there's her sister Dorothy, or Dot, and Dot is lit up. She's in this sparkly jumpsuit. She's got dangly like Christmas tree light bulb earrings that are light, you know, flashing in two different colors. She got red, green, red, green, red, green, red, you know, going on. She's in this, maybe it's dark green. It's certainly a dark, it might be black, it might be dark green, but it's all sparkly jumpsuit. And she's got these boots that are like elf boots, but like very high-end elf boots, because she's a very successful author and makes plenty of money. So I wrote, she is lit up. So we know this about Dorothy. She's flamboyant. She's sexy. She's always showing cleavage, and she's got a lot of it. Okay. And she comes up to give a hug to Scarpetta, and she goes, I smell something. Not the normal morgue smell. Smell something. She's like, you've been smoking. So now people that hadn't read the book, remember I had that reaction when I saw present day Scarpetta smoking. I'm like, what? She doesn't smoke anymore, you know? And by the way, there's like smoking by everybody everywhere. Okay. Especially in the past, but also, you know, Marino's trying to quit apparently, but Scarpetta shares a cigarette with him, and so he takes it and everything. But what we see in that sister relationship is how critical and chastising Dorothy is towards Scarpetta. Okay. And of course, they start arguing about Lucy and about how she's dealing with her grief, okay? Which we will come to find out is Janet, who was her wife, who died a year and a half, 2 years before, has become an avatar, okay? And so she's not letting go of Janet as if she's dead. She's living her now life as if Janet is still alive, because she's able to talk with Janet through the computer. Okay. Just like having a FaceTime call or a Skype call or whatever app you want to use. Right. That's what it's like. And they're able to have conversations. So she's not moving on. That's what, Dorothy, her mother, is worried about. And Scarpetta is like, you know, how can you judge grief kind of thing? And so they really get into it. And let's see what's here. The book. Okay, I'll mention this because I might forget to come back to it. When we finally see Janet in the avatar, I was actually kind of surprised at how real it's like you're watching me on a screen right now. That's what it's like looking at Janet. Okay. Whereas in the book, when you say avatar to me, I'm thinking more of like a cartoon or something, that it's you know, it's some kind of imagination of her, not like you're really looking at. Like we all now, we see what AI can do now, right? And how you can make it look like people are saying things, right? And you're using their real image, and it looks like it, and you have to like, is that real or is it AI? You know, because it looks so real. When the book came out, when the first book came out that had Janet as an avatar, we didn't have that benefit of AI. Patricia Cornwell, she's always on top of the latest technology. So she probably had access to some government thing that she saw what it could do, right? But for us reading a book and imagining it, it wasn't to that level. Whereas now we see it at that level. So that was different from reading the book to seeing the series. So I wanted to make note of all the activity in the kitchen that's going on. Right now it's with the sister, but everybody's going to come in, and there's all this activity, and there's all this really good food that's set out, because one of the things about Scarpetta is the fine ingredients, and food is really big with Scarpetta. Alcohol, whether it's whiskey or wine, is very, everything is always high end that she chooses. And so you get exposed to a lot of that in the books. It's almost like food is a character in the books. It's so described so thoroughly, okay? Whereas in the television series, the food is there, but it's just part of the set design. It's part of the background. It's not a character the way it is in the book. So if there's one thing that I would have to say disappoints me a little bit, it would be that the food is not more important. And you know, I mean, but how you got to pick and choose, right? So if they chose to leave that out, then okay. But I feel like in the books, and to Scarpetta's character, it's very important, the types of foods. And in fact, in this particular scene, she didn't even like prepare the food that's out. She just walked in from the office, you know, from working. And so Jamie Lee Curtis had apparently put everything out. But I wanted to mention that throughout the series, that's the case, that the food is never really highlighted the way it is in the books. It's very glossed over. Okay. And they're drinking wine, and everybody seems to always have a wine glass. So then, because they had this fight, because they just kind of had this, there's a disagreement. Okay. They get into a real fight later, but this disagreement that they had about how Lucy's spending too much time with Janet, and it's holding back her grieving process, and Scarpetta always gives her what she wants and things like this. She goes out to get Lucy to bring her back for dinner, but she goes because the house they live in is a plantation mansion that was it's the house that Benton Wesley grew up in. And there's a cottage on the property. And so Lucy has her own place in this cottage. So Scarpetta goes out to see Lucy at her cottage. And she has all kinds of high tech, you know, like when you come up to the door, there's a camera. Well, now we have, you know, people have Ring doorbells and everything. You can, you know, Ring cameras, you can see who's at the door, whatever. It's like that. Okay. But she has it programmed where it says something about like Hal, open the bay door or something, going back to 2001 Space Odyssey. So something that computer geeks would find funny, right? And this is when we see Janet in the avatar and the comments I just said about how real she looks. And also, if you remember in the past, Lucy was sitting at this old computer that clack, 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 clack with the keys. Well, now, I mean, she's got like 5 screens and this, I mean, everything is super high tech. So you immediately know that Lucy has progressed in her journey, in her tech journey. Traveling Fool says that AI stuff is going to cause bad problems. Yeah, I mean, people can misuse it, you know. It absolutely, and in court, in law cases, in just like in marriages, if somebody, yeah, you know, they were cheating on you when they weren't, but somebody just wants to mess with you. You know, oh my goodness, there's so many problems that AI can cause. Lucy has a cat. Now, the cat in the TV show is black and white. I know that in the books, it's a Scottish fold cat, which is a type of cat. I didn't know exactly what that was. Kind of looks like a Persian cat, but like with kind of a pug nose, and with ears that are folded back. That's where it gets the Scottish fold name. And this I mean, we don't see the cat very much. She's holding her and then she jumps down and runs away. Him or her is holding it. But it doesn't look like it's a Scottish fold. So that was a liberty that they took. And in the past, when Dr. K. Scarpetta saw Lucy at the old computer, and she's just standing there with her glass of wine, and Lucy says, "Are you spying on me?" And so now when Dr. K. Scarpetta comes in the door, the first thing Lucy says is, "Are you spying on me again?" So we know that this is a long-running joke between them. I mean, long-running, right? And because it's Lucy's birthday, Scarpetta has a gift, and like everything she does is very high end and very quality. It's a bracelet that she points out is dinosaur bone and some kind of like meteorite. I don't think she just said meteorite. I think it was some variation of that. And there's a shape of a infinity sign on it, and Lucy turns it over, and the inscription says, "Who we are endures forever." And there's so many layers to that. Lucy asks Scarpetta, do you really believe that after all you've seen? And she answers, "Oh yeah, your very existence proves it." I'm like, whoa, the screenwriter, I think, was really happy when they wrote that. I mean, because sometimes when you write something, it's like, oh yeah, that's a good one. That was good. That landed very well. And so some of these layers, when Lucy's asking about this saying, do you really believe that? Do you really believe that who we are endures forever? Remember, Lucy's dealt with the grief of her own father. And she's currently dealing with the grief of Janet, but not just normal dealing with the grief. She's got this avatar that she talks with her as if she's still alive. So can we really, I mean, there's almost a transhumanism aspect to this question that she's asking on one level, and so yes, she says she does believe that. And then they're walking back from the cottage and to go back into the house. And this is a moment where you really get to see how immense this plantation home is, and not just the home, but the property that it sits on. This is a very large, old money home. Okay. Benton Wesley comes from old wealth, and it's very clear. And so that was a really good cinematography. cinematographic shot. You know, the shot was really beautiful. Oh, and also as they're walking out of the cottage, you see Lucy's motorcycle. So that's the only time you see the motorcycle. You never see her riding the motorcycle, you know, at least at this point, right? It's the only time I've ever seen the motorcycle, and I've watched 7 of the 8 episodes. So that motorcycle gives us a little bit of insight into who Lucy is, that, you know, she's a bit of a rebel, right? And a little bit of a thrill seeker. If you've read the books, you know she also flies helicopters and everything. She knows weapons. She knows cars. She knows a lot more than just computers, right? And so just a glimpse, just a little glimpse of that with the motorcycle sitting there outside the cottage. So then they're in the house, and they go in the house, and Dorothy is trying really hard to be Lucy's mom, you know, just overplaying the role of, in a way that it's like, I'm your mom, not your Aunt Scarpetta. She doesn't come out and say that, but you really get that feeling of the interactions going on. And then it's like, where's our husbands? Dorothy says. And Marino, who's now married to Dorothy, comes from around the wall holding a cake with a candle in it and singing happy birthday. So they all start singing happy birthday in Italian. They're not singing it in English. And this is like a glimpse, right? In the books, the Italian heritage of Scarpetta is so prevalent. And so we see a glimpse of that here. The way they're singing in Italian, you can see that's their roots. And they still hold on to those roots, even after all these years. As they're older now, they still hold those roots. And Marino also has Italian roots. So in this case, and remember when you had in the past, Scarpetta and Benton were together and Marino was the outsider. Now Marino is the one that's together, and Benton's not even there. I mean, Benton shows up, okay, but he's either absent or outsider, right, of this Italian. He's not Italian. He's Southern. He's a Southern gentleman, okay. His family probably owned that plantation house when it was a plantation, okay. So Benton arrives, and the not Italian outsider note. Okay. But that aside, there is this feeling that the gang's all here. Okay. This is you've seen this person and this person and these two and these two. And, you see all these different dynamics happening and unfolding, and we're learning about how people relate with each other. And for the first time, I felt you see them together as a unit, as a family unit. So you've got Scarpetta and Benton and Dorothy and Marino and Lucy. And throughout the series, that's definitely the core. Dorothy wasn't until later books. I mean, she was mentioned, she'd be in the books on occasion. She wasn't as central as Scarpetta and Benton and Marino and Lucy. Those 4 work together. Okay, they solve crimes together. Dorothy's the outsider on that level. Okay, but now that Dorothy is married to Marino and they're living in the house, because their house it hasn't been said yet, but their house has some construction. So while their house is being remodeled, they're living in the same house. But in this moment, you really get that family connection. They're together. They're together. It's going to kind of fall apart a bit, but in that moment, they're all together. Okay, let's see. So while Lucy and Dorothy and Marino are kind of in the, talking, there's the cake. I don't know if they're cutting the cake or if they're just talking or whatever. They're blurry in the background. Now we focus on Benton and Scarpetta have moved away from the table, and we're focused on them. And they have a very intimate, whispering, and very intimate conversation that the others are not being privy to. Okay. And in this conversation is when we find out that the house belongs to Benton. She mentions something like, how do you feel being back in the FBI? So we learned that not only is Benton an FBI agent right now, but he previously had been. Just like she's coming back to this new job, right? She's new in the position she had before. And Benton is now new in the position he had before as well, only with the FBI. And you get this sense that they are very loving towards each other. Even with everything else going on in the background, blah, 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 blah. We know how flamboyant and noisy and loud Dorothy is, and they're all having fun with the cake and everything. Even with all that going on, just feet away, their love for each other really comes through. And like I said, that love is going to be tested. But in this moment, you can see their love for each other. And then we get a distinct contrast between their relationship, Benton and Scarpetta, a contrast between their relationship and Dorothy and Marino's relationship. Because, like I said, she's loud, she's boisterous. She's saying, Marino, did you remember to bring my purse downstairs? He's like, yeah. I go, yeah. He's kind of an oafy character, And then she goes, but did you remember my Chanel blah blah lip gloss to put that in my purse before you brought it down? And it's immediately apparent this dynamic is not the same as Benton and Scarpetta's dynamic, the relationship between the two of them. And I think this is the first time we've seen the two of them together. He is so out of his league, and he knows it. And he says something like, I don't know nothing about that. He's got a little bit of a wise guy kind of accent to him. He looks out of his league. There's definitely tension. There's tension emotionally. Okay. They're not so tight emotionally, because there's this, not domestic violence. What do you call it when the codependency? There's this codependency emotionally going on between them, but you also see that they have the physical sparks. They have the romantic, physical, sexual sparks. So that's what their relationship is built on, and that's all Dorothy's. Dorothy's always been the wild child, as she claims herself. Okay. So then Dorothy and Lucy have a very interesting exchange, because Dorothy is talking about how Lucy is gay, but it's very awkward. It's awkward. So she's trying to be approving and look, but it's more like, look at me. Look how much I approve of you. Me, narcissist. Look at me. yeah, you're gay and I'm okay with it. It's like that. It's that kind of conversation. So it's very awkward. And she goes into criticizing the grief again. She says that Lucy needs to move out. That it's so funny because she's telling Lucy she's got to move out. And something that I picked up on is that it's so ironic that she needs to move out of their house, but she's blinded to the fact that she's disrupting their marriage and they want her to leave. She's overstayed her welcome. And yet all she can do is complain to Lucy about how she needs to leave. So I picked up on that. She mentions that, you're supposed to be starting a PI business with Marino, which comes up a little bit in future episodes. So it's good to catch that. She's trying to do anything to get her away from Janet. Okay. You can be doing the PI business with Marino. You could go back to the FBI with Benton, just give her all these options. But it's coming down in a very controlling way, even though she means well, it doesn't sound well. And so Scarpetta is defending Lucy, whenever she's saying something, she's defending Lucy. And finally she says, like, I need to see you in the kitchen. Right. And she does get a phone call from Officer Ryan, but she ignores it at this point because at this moment, family is, and what's happening with family is more important than the job, even though the job is like her life, right? But she does not answer Officer Ryan's phone call, which will come to play very shortly. So she says, Dorothy, come on, I need to see you in the kitchen. And Dorothy very reluctantly goes. And this is a huge fight. Remember what I said before, they were arguing? This is the fight. This gets physical. And before it gets physical, it's like the people that you love and that you're closest to, their buttons. You're able to see things about them that they don't see themselves. So exactly, how to hurt someone, right? And that is what happens in this scene. Again, Dorothy's upset that Lucy spends so much time with Janet. She feels that Scarpetta is enabling her to continue in her grief and not move on. And she outright says, yes, I blame you. She says, I blame you. Traveling Fool says, sounds a lot like me. Whichever part you're referring to, that's good. And she says to Scarpetta that Lucy was better off before you came back, because remember, she had been in Boston and now she's come back. And that moment, they're arguing very strongly, similar to earlier. But when she says that Lucy was better off before you came back, Scarpetta just goes, oh, how dare you? And now it's up to the next level. You were talking about the Southern gentleman part, just to clarify. There you go. You're that Southern gentleman. Smooth as whiskey. So let's see. Dorothy says, she's my daughter, not yours. You didn't raise her, blah, blah, blah. They get physical with each other. And that's when Benton enters and says, your phone's blowing up, meaning Detective Ryan keeps calling. Okay. So maybe you should get this. And it's kind of his way of he doesn't get in the middle of the cat fight, because they're physically on each other. All right. And he's not stepping in the middle of it, but he's like, your phone's blowing up here. And so that backs Scarpetta down. And so Scarpetta leaves the room to answer the call, and then he follows her. But as he's leaving, he gives like a stink eye to Dorothy. You could say a side eye or a stink eye, or not quite the evil eye. That would be going too far, but just like a, like, what the hell are you doing? Can't you be civil? But it's in his house. This is his house where he grew up as a child, and it's like she's defiling the house. And they were just this family unit, right? And it's falling apart. And so Scarpetta's going to leave, and they say their goodbyes. She keeps saying it's a shit show. This is a shit show. And she can't wait to get out of the house and get out of the shit. And she does, I think she does say, I'm sorry to leave you with this shit show, but I gotta go. Right. And they understand the job. She understands when he's got to go for his job. He understands when she's got to go for her job. And then Marino walks right through the middle of them with his jacket saying, I'm driving. She's like, well, I can drive. No. This, that. I'm driving. Okay. And they get in the car, and as they're driving away, Benton is left standing on the porch, watching them drive away. And two things you can sense in this moment, or you should anyway. If you missed it, I'll tell you. First of all, he wishes he was the one getting away from the shit show. He doesn't. Now he's stuck with Dorothy. Lucy's going to go back to Janet, right? And he's stuck in the house with Dorothy, and just like, he doesn't get to get away is one level. But the other is, now he's on the outside, right? The dynamics between the three of them, well, and between everybody, there's the inside and there's the outside, and it keeps revolving and changing. And so now it's Scarpetta and Marino, and he's on the outside. Okay. He's the one that's left alone. And you can feel that. And then we're in the car as they're driving to a new scene. And Scarpetta, this is a moment where she's questioning herself. It's like, in the moment of the fight with Dorothy, you're just reacting. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. But now you've stepped away from it for a moment, and you start to think, because remember, people who love each other know how to hurt each other. So she's like, starts to doubt herself and question herself, and is like, could Dorothy have been right? Am I enabling Lucy, and not, so that she can't move out of her grief? And so she asked Marino about this, and he says, I don't think it matters where she lives, as long as she's talking to AI Janet all day long. And let me tell you, from the first time Dorothy says anything about Janet moving, I'm thinking, well, if she moves, she's just going to take the computers with her. She's still going to be with Janet. My very first thought, right? And so finally, someone makes some sense and says it. It doesn't matter where she lives if she's still with AI Janet, right? And so through this conversation, one thing we learn about their relationship is that they go back so far, and they are so close that they can tell each other the truth, right? Because sometimes you got to hold back a little here or there, but they can be completely honest with each other and not worry about offending the other person or hurting them or whatever. You're going to tell it like it is. That's the relationship that they have, which suggests a very deep past. They also, for the first time, discuss Maggie and Ryan And could they be out to get her? Oh, maybe things aren't so rosy there. Maybe things aren't so simple and innocent as they seem. There could be something behind them. So this is the first time that's spoken. You know, if you catch a glance or this or that, you know, you kind of get, and of course, if you've read the books, you know that they're both evil, you know, but for someone watching for the first time, this is the first time it's said. Okay. We're almost done here. We're almost done. I'm on the last page. Hint at when she left before, it was not good circumstances. Okay. Right. So we know that she's come back, but we don't know why she left the first time. And through this conversation in the car, we do get some idea that whatever reason she left, it was not good. Okay. It was not good circumstances. And she's like saying, oh, if I knew that Ryan and Maggie and all this, I wouldn't have taken the job. I wouldn't have come back. And he's kind of like, well, yeah, you would have come back for family, you know, for Lucy, basically. I don't think he says Lucy, but that's what he meant. And then she says to him, I need someone I can trust. Right? That's really the core of their relationship. Remember I said you could be honest with each other? Marino is the only person she can trust. And so she does an official swearing in. Oh, before she swears him in. Because he's like, but I'm supposed to be starting this PI business, and I can't, you know, how, and I think he says, I'm a kept man because Dorothy has all the money. So he doesn't have to work because Dorothy pays for everything. She's got plenty of money, right? So I'm a kept man. I'm supposed to be starting this PI business. How can I work for you? And I think that's when she said, I need someone I can trust. And then she tells him, because he's got a little bit of an ego. He's not a narcissist by any means, but he's got some macho ego. All right. And so she feeds that, and she says, your title would be forensics operations specialist. And he lights up. Oh my goodness. He's driving. He's like, forensics operations specialist? Oh, I like the sound of that. Right? She knew how to get him. She knew how to get him, and she played that perfectly for good reason. And so then they swear. She swears him in and deputizes him. So because remember, he's not allowed on crime scenes when he's not an official personnel, and so now he's official. Okay. They arrive at the crime scene. Ryan's there again. I said Ryan for the Maggie and Ryan, but that's Riley. I'm going to change my notes really quick so I don't make that mistake again. Maggie and Riley. Ryan is the police officer. And so he's there. Fruge is there. And we also find out at this moment that Marino's been mentoring her. Okay. And the reason Ryan called them is because he believes that this new murder scene is connected to the train track one, because it's the possible weapon from the last victim was used as a doorstop. And it's this big thing in exercise rooms that you call a cowbell, I guess. Not a real cowbell. Why, we need more cowbell. Okay. But it's a big round ball that's got this handle on it that you could actually hold it with two hands and do whatever you need to swing with it. Or I guess you could hold it with one hand or something, but instead of a dumbbell, it's a cowbell. Okay. And they got prints on it, and they're running the prints. They don't know whose prints they are yet. Bruce Dickinson. Okay. I don't know who that is. Bruce, cowbells. I think of Christopher Walken's with we need more cowbell. Anyway, so Matt Peterson the husband from the previous case, right? They get Ryan comes back in and says the prints are his. So now it's like, uh-oh, right? Then we jump. So it's his prints. We jump to him. And we see Matt. Yeah, that was the character the character that Christopher Walken was playing in the Saturday Night Live skit with more cowbells. Love to say that's like one of the best skits ever. I love Mr. Bill and all of that back in the day, but that was a good skit. Okay, this is the ending. And then it's the end of the episode. Okay. They get the news that it's his prince. So then, boom, we flash to him. But it flashes between old Matt and new Matt. So like, which is it old Matt or new Matt? And then there's like a fire. Oh, wait. I take that back. It flashes in a minute. We see the past Matt going into the house, and like through there's still crime scene tape. There's still crime scene tape on the door, but he's got a key. You can hear he's opened the door with the key. He's opened the door. He stepped through the crime scene tape, closed the door, walks through the house. You see the bed is stripped because they've collected all the evidence, and he's staring at it. And you have to guess, is he staring at it because he lost his wife and he needs some kind of like closure and he's imagining what happened to her? Or is he the one who did it and he's remembering what he did to her? Because it's like one or the other. Which one is it? We don't know. But he's standing there, and then it flashes between him being older and new, and there's like flames flashing, and but then it transitions to present day Matt Peterson sitting at a campfire. End. So that's it. Season 1, episode 1. And so next week we'll do episode 2. So if you enjoyed my recap and my thoughts and everything, please give my show a like. And Scarpetta is one of my favorite characters. Patricia Cornwell is one of my favorite authors, probably my favorite author, because you could say Tennessee Williams would be my favorite playwright. Definitely favorite modern author. I love Henry James as an older, days gone by author. But so yeah, Patricia Cornwell. I love her. I love Scarpetta. I love all the other. I mean, Captain Chase. People didn't like the Captain Chase series, so she did 2 books and that was it. She's not going to write anymore. I thought the first Captain Chase was but the second Captain Chase, I thought was fascinating. But yeah, she's not going to do any more of those. Anyway, leave some comments with your own. Did I leave something out? Did I miss anything? Is there something you noticed that I didn't? Something you really, what was your favorite part? Was there something you didn't like? Please put it in the comments below, as I'd love to hear from you. And as my channel's still growing, I'm able to read everybody's comments. So please do that. And I still end every show with love transcends time and space. So wherever and whenever you're watching this, I love you, because the world needs more love. So there you go. There's some for you. And I've got a little outro, which kind of shows what I do. If you're just discovering me for the first time, the outro kind of shows a little bit about the other content that I also do on this channel. And so I hope to see you next week, and maybe before that for one of my other shows. Later, Gator. It's the Traveling Fools. Until next time, catch you later.